all of the unimaginable problems that we presented over and over again that so many fucking people did not want to see were correct. Please, I beg you, look at this, okay? Look at this. What the hell is Kamala doing with Ested Herndon of the New York Times, okay? Is Kamala Harris's strategy all wrong? Are Democrats throwing this election? Does Kamala Harris still have a chance? Kamala Harris is wild for doing this podcast for months and months and months, both on the Pod Johns podcast, both on Newsweek and numerous articles. I talked over and over and over and over again. I was confident in my statement wrong, and I hope you never took what I said as chirping at you. So yeah, I'm devastated. I think several people at work to turn out voted for Trump law, so fuck me, I guess. For months and months and months and months, I said consistently that Kamala Harris has a slight chance of victory, but overall her prospects are dire. I said over and over again that the reason why this race is even close, despite Trump's campaign being overall awful, which it is, and many people are going to tell you it was brilliant. Many people are going to tell you Trump was fucking brilliant. He did a fantastic job. He did not. He did not do a fantastic fucking job. Okay? He didn't. Donald Trump lost votes from 2020. Kamala Harris lost a fuck ton more votes from 2020. And that's it. You should have been more vocal. This is on you, brother. What? It's all your fault, Hasan. I think we have a lot of trolls in the chat today, by the way, who, as always, don't necessarily care about the truth, but more so just want to like find a way to somehow make this my fault. I don't know how you think a Twitch streamer is responsible for the future of the, future of the Republic, but anyway, Americans were angry. Okay, Americans were very angry, and the campaign once again did not respond to them at all. They did not respond to their anger at all. Time and time again, I said, here, I'm on the record on this. I'll show you. There's a couple different moments, but I think one of the most prescient moments is this one. Okay? It's what I said after the DNC. Holy shit, my SEO is awful, dude. I just Googled Hasan, or I just searched Hasanabi DNC last night. I couldn't even find, my video doesn't even come up. PBS NewsHour, Kenan Thompson comes up. Where the fuck is this? Anyway. Are you going to be covering the concession speech later today? Yes. YouTube is also very right wing. It's like the fourth one down. No. This is John Oliver on election 2024 from the fucking Hasanabi archive too. I think there's a problem, and I don't think Democrats are recognizing it. One, Donald Trump knows he's losing, okay? And he desperately, desperately wants to win. That's number one. Number two, Democrats think they're winning, and the race is actually close. I don't like that at all. I think that originally Kamala Harris was like legitimately pessimistic and skeptical about her prospects of winning. Like she was actually doing a good job. Not like not gloating and being careful. Democrats are so lucky that they're running against a party that has like forgotten how to run for office. Okay. Where is the? I think
he will give them another round of tax breaks. In fact, is a national.
Insane. Oh, here, this is it. Oh my God. That's it. This is all it took. I can't do it. Every single reason why you were excited about Kamala Harris, beyond the fact that she was not a carcass was literally the exact opposite of this mentality. This is old Democratic Party mentality. We're back. Good to be in business. This will be a very close race. Kamala Harris will most likely still win it because Donald Trump, unless there's some other caveats I'm going to show you in a second, Kamala Harris will most likely win this election only because the Republican Party is so completely insane. They don't know how to run a normal, competent race anymore. Donald Trump already has maxed out his name recognition. Those will be the reasons as to why Kamala Harris will most likely win. However, there is a caveat. Benjamin Netanyahu will take America's long military dick and wave it at everyone in the region, bringing troops into the fray. Okay, bringing troops in the contest. Do everything in his power to make sure that the Dems don't win. Kamala Harris will be attached to all of Joe Biden's worst foreign policy achievements. Barring that, without that, this election is not in the bag at all. I've been warning that the Democrats are way too cocky, way too fucking confident about the Brad Summer memes, the momentum that they got, the momentum that they experienced. That momentum came because the Democrats responded to public pressure. I'm sorry. You have to be the dumbest to be like, I'm voting for Kamala Harris because she's going to go to war with Iran, because she's going to stand up to America's enemies. You want to know why I know you don't think that that's a good speech? Because you're coping in the chat saying, well, it's not for me. Maybe it's for some other person. Maybe it's for the Trump guys that want to drop Trump, but just like need that extra oomph. Are you saying this was a 1 out of 10 absolute train wreck in your opinion? No, of course, it's not a 1 out of 10. My expectation coming into this speech was to see what Kamala Harris talks about when she's like the joy candidate. She's going to bring hope and change and joy. She had the opportunity to run a 2008 Obama. That's what I was expecting. Even if it was fake, my expectation at the very least was that the couple moves that they made, they were going to lead into a progressive messaging campaign. I'm sorry. The Democratic president should never, ever say, we're going to have the most lethal army, the most lethal military in the world. You're supposed to be the counterbalance to fascist, jingoistic sentiment. You're supposed to at least aesthetically present yourself as the peaceful candidate, as the peaceful party. She went up there and went cop mode. It was shocking. Like, I shit on anarchists all the time. You know this. I do. But goddamn, they're kind of not wrong. That's crazy, man. She had all this progressive momentum. And now all she's got are the loyalists who are just begging for someone, not Biden. So the answer is to not vote. Man, I'm not saying that. Vote for Kamala Harris, baby. Do whatever the you want. I'm not going to tell you not to vote for her. And most will tell you to say that you're not going to vote for her, to try to fucking get her to do your bidding. As a voter, it is your right. It's your right to demand things from your politicians for your vote. They do not have your vote for granted. They should earn it from the jump. The one thing I will tell you is not vote for Donald Trump. When it comes to like making a political calculation, it's always running towards this mythical guy out there that is like, I'm going to only vote for the Democrats if they become moderate. Then become a Republican. I never hear a Republican go, you know, Donald Trump's got to take this line. He's got to take this soft approach because there's some moderates out there that he needs to win over. Because that's not a thing. Because they're entitled to their politicians doing their bidding. Democrats are so cowardly that they're like, I want this thing, healthcare, free college. I want these things. But honestly, I'm terrified that my neighbor doesn't want it. And he's not even going to vote for the Democrats, but maybe he will. So we should just run on this moderate policy for some other guy, not me, but another guy that might want it. It's wild that we're always seeking out this mythical moderate. People take for granted in European countries all of the policies that we are desperately trying to bring forward. But here in America, it's a non-starter. Trans people were mentioned twice during the whole DNC, by the way, no speaker. I mean, that's like that aspect of it, as long as it's like a firm commitment to have to trans people, I don't believe that the Democrats are going to lean into trans panic, which, by the way, actually, I don't know. Maybe they will. They're just going to become the Republican Party of 4 years ago until that ratchet effect makes it so that the Democratic Party inevitably becomes the Republican Party just at the same time. Jake Tapper on CNN. There were criticisms of the left calling Kamala a cop. Tonight, she seemed to have stepped right into that. True. They're celebrating her being a cop. There's a right-wing Democrat movement, and they're not even hiding it. But no, you don't understand. Chatters will tell me all about how good this is. Buying dude and go vote for Trump. Bro, I swear to God, the Dems are so back. This literally is like, you know, oh, if you don't want to vote for her. Like, you don't vote for her. Like, you're saying that she shouldn't be this like right wing. You must like Trump. That's crazy. Like, you think that's a good way to message, dude? You think like you should try and push people away from the party? You think this race isn't close? Democrats in the electoral college, Democrats need to win by 5% nationally minimum. That's without factoring in, obviously, in the current polls, at least a 3 to 5% margin of error. We're not even in that comfortable space yet, and you motherfuckers are running victory laps. Ooh. It's crazy.
Quick interview?
Yes. This is the last night of the DNC. This is when I came to the unfortunate, rather sad conclusion that the Democrats were actually going to tack to the center and center right in an effort to pick apart moderate voters. And they did that. And I kept reiterating how bad of an idea that was and how this had not worked in the past. In numerous conversations with academics, journalists, activists, and the like, I kept saying over and over again, this is a bad idea. This is not a good idea. This is a bad idea. And that it is a risky gambit for no reason. It is a risky gamble, and it's not going to work. It has never worked, and it probably won't work. It only kind of worked for Joe Biden in 2020, and that was likely a consequence of COVID. Okay? Here is another warning that I issued to the Democratic Party on that Newsweek article last October.
The Democratic Party has this profound skill in snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. It's an issue that they would not have had if they had leaned on where people were hurting and how they were going to help them. And they didn't do that. They went with a very conservative lean. The Democratic Party's like harm reduction strategy as a way to just like shame voters away from extracting concessions and just voting for the Democrats every single time without making any demands whatsoever, as they actively push a lot of people in the base of the party away. If you rely on that without offering things to people, well, then you're inevitably shrinking your base. Whether Trump wins or loses, we are, and I mean this, living in Trump's America. Like, he might lose this election, and the Democratic Party will push Trump's 2020 agenda. That's what they're running on. That to me is crazy. That to me is genuinely terrifying to think about. The Democratic Party has this.
Yeah. But no, what do I fucking know? And it's not just that either. There was a bunch of other issues here, like in terms of youth turnout, the male youth vote. That is going to be something that a lot of people are going to be paying attention to. I sounded the alarm about right-wingers dominating the online space for young men. 47% of the 18 to 29-year-old men voted for Donald Trump this election cycle. The amount of right-wing radicalization that has been occurring, especially in younger male spaces. Everything is completely dominated by right-wing politics. If you're a dude under the age of 30 and you have any hobbies whatsoever, whether it's playing video games, whether it's working out, whether it's, I don't know, listening to like a history podcast or whatever, every single facet of that is just completely dominated by center-right to, I wouldn't say far right in the same way that it was back in like the 2016 era at the end of like Obama's administration, but like definitely center right to Trumpian right, like openly Trump right, not like genuinely neo-Nazi. Go back and re-examine the conversation I had with the Pod Johns. The Pod Johns are the most like permissible left-leaning people that you can have within the orbit of the Democratic Party versus someone who is completely outside of the influence, outside of the sphere of the Democratic Party. Compare that conversation, compare the notes, compare the warnings that I issued to the Pod Johns on the Crooked Media podcast that I was on. Okay? And you will understand why we failed. You will understand why the Democratic Party failed. You will understand what the Democratic Party has to do. They will not do it because obviously they are beholden to the same corporate benefactors. They are still beholden to the same corporate masters, just as the Republican Party is. But the Republican Party gets away with being cruel. The Democratic Party still has to maintain the veneer that they are progressive, that they're supposed to be a counterbalance, that they're supposed to be a counterweight to the Republican creep towards fascism. Okay? That part is quieted down a little bit, but like they're like 90% of the way there for the most part. And that's it. Everything that they see is right-wing sentiment being expressed by individuals that they find charismatic, thought leaders, influencers that they subscribe to. And I think that that is some of the reason why you see this movement. The bro vote came through for Trump, 49 to 47. Yeah. 49% to 47%. Okay? I don't think people understand what this looks like. I don't think people understand what the future prospects look like for the Democratic Party, what the future looks like for this country. Meanwhile, on MSNBC, the progressive era has to end if the Democrats want to win again. They are tacking right again. It does not matter for them. They literally, as I told you, also correctly, they do not give a shit. They do not care. They do not care about this defeat. They're using this to say, we didn't go far right enough. It's a 30-point shift to the right. Facts don't matter anymore. There's a whole generation of young people influenced by disinformation, fed by influencers who are primarily right-wing. Other than you, there are no examples of relatable masculinity on the left for young people under 30. Yes, I am going to continue doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to continue getting fucking mercilessly shitted on by those fucking psychopathic demons on the right that are capturing the attention of young men in general. It doesn't matter, though. This is not like simply a cultural war that you can win with. This is not a cultural war that you can fucking win just by doing podcasts. That's not, you can't do that. You have to still have a solid defense mechanism at the top that aligns with the interests of people like myself. Okay? If the Democratic Party still is running around being like, everything is fine, actually. I mean, oh my God, just vote for us. The institutions, we got to defend the institutions. While everyone is like, I don't give a fuck about the institutions, man. The price of bread is too high. The price of eggs is too fucking high. Fuck you. I don't give a shit about your stupid fucking civility. I want to blow it up is their mentality. You can't reach to them. You can't reach out to them. You can't fucking communicate to them. There is a lot of ground to make up. The biggest lesson of 2024 campaign ads don't matter. Studies agree, but the media space does. The right has content mills churning out brain dead slop. They're popular. They work. Dem should plow through their massive warships in the progressive and liberal media. No, that's not the only problem here. That's not the only issue. It's not just that, like, they're not giving me enough money so I can fucking dominate the podcast circuit or whatever. If their solution is to unleash 1 million Harry Hasans into the fucking suburbs, they're still going to lose. They have to address the material harms that people are fucking experiencing. If they don't do that, it doesn't matter. You can have every single TikTok twink out there running the fucking gamut, talking about owning people in the marketplace of fucking ideas. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not just about dominating the fucking communications field, okay? It's not just that. And I like some of those guys, okay? But that's not the major issue. You cannot have a party that is ideologically committed to third-way neoliberalism, constantly tacking to the fucking center right, constantly trying to re-triangulate as the Republican Party pulls the entire fucking country towards fascism. You can't do that. Because if one party's saying, we're going to do concentration camps, we want to fucking kill migrants, and the other party's like, no, actually, we want to kill the migrants, but like in a gay way, people are going to be like, okay, I'm going to go with the migrant murder party instead. They've been there for years and years. I trust them more on this issue. Now the only thing you've done as the Democratic Party is you basically said, it's normal. You've normalized that position now. Good job. Good job. All the while, the entire resentment towards migrants literally stems from nothing. It's not even real. It's not a real problem. There is no national security threat that migrants constitute in the United States of America. Undocumented immigrants are responsible for less crime per capita than natural-born U.S. citizens are. That's why it's so fucked. It's literally born out of a lie. It's just made up. It's just pure vitriolic racism. It's just misinformation. What is this? Atlanta Journal-Constitution update. Several of the migrants I've been speaking with say they would have voted for Trump themselves. Most of the folks who crossed the border illegally in the last 2 to 3 years, they don't believe Trump will deport them because they are here to work and are not criminals. That's the other aspect of this. How many times have I described to you, Americans don't know. They don't understand what the impact of policy is going to look like. They don't know. Until it fucking happens. Look at Roe v. Wade. Look at Roe v. Wade. Has a chance of defeating Joe Biden. I think Trump has a chance of defeating Joe Biden. But worse than that, even if Joe Biden wins, I think we go back to business as usual politics here in America. And next time around, it's not going to be Donald Trump. It's actually going to be an ideologically minded fascist, not a proto-fascist who kind of succeeded somehow and fooled Americans for long enough to get into a position of power, but an actual terrifying leader.
Oh, my goodness.
I think Trump. Oh, my goodness. Well, I was wrong. It was Donald Trump, at least on that front. But it's Donald Trump who is the fascist. Go back long enough, you will find me accurately telling you exactly what the fuck's going to happen. But do they not understand that you don't have close enough influence to sway the entire election? No, this is not about me. Like, the people that come in here and say you're responsible for this electoral defeat are just like fucking delusional losers that are looking to place the finger of blame at anyone but the Democratic Party for some fucking weird reason, okay? Staggering class realignment / shift in working class from Jeff Stein at Washington Post. Harris lost despite major shift of affluent voters her way. Literally what I said about her hemorrhaging the base while simultaneously desperately trying to grab on to as many suburban Hitlerites as possible happened. That's it. The base fell out. The bottom fell. That's what happens when you fucking run around and go, I'm small business. I'm a small business. I love transnational gangs and prosecuting them. I love prosecuting small transnational gangs as a business. What am I going to do for the economy? Oh, don't worry. $50,000 in tax cuts if you want to start a startup. It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Talk about how you are going to unleash Lena Khan on fucking price gougers. Talk about how you're going to make the grocery stores scream bloody murder for the crime of price gouging. That's what people wanted. That's what they wanted. Yeah. This is the chart. She spent months courting Republican endorsements, writing the 2016 Clinton strategy to certain defeat. They risked it all to build a centrist party of suburbanites and college kids and lost. It's time to move on, but I don't think the Dems will move with us. Registered Republicans, shockingly, voted for Republicans. Kamala Harris saw Nikki Haley absolutely get demolished in the Republican primary and said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be Nikki Haley, but with a D next to my name. 400,000 likes, by the way. This is not Kamala's fault. She worked her ass off to a beautiful campaign with 100 days she had. She's arguably the most qualified U.S. presidential candidate ever with prior experience in all three branches of the government. Americans simply voted against their best interest. Like, I don't disagree with some of the fucking sentiment here, except for the major one, which is, yes, it is her fault. It is always the fault of the campaign. She had $1 billion. She had $1 billion. And she lit it on fire. Shut the fuck up. What do you need? $2 billion? You want $3 billion? The fuck are these people talking about? I don't want to say I told you so, but this run to the moderates looks like a spectacular failure. Lethal military, muscular border policy, and parading Liz Cheney didn't swing votes in Dems' favor and only worked to normalize Republican positions. And the bottom fell out. This kind of narrative needs to be crushed to death. It's neoliberalism all the way down. Neoliberalism must die for the Democratic Party to live. Yeah. The issue is the Republicans and the Democrats are both doing that, but the Republicans are at least communicating a fucking right-wing populist sentiment, and populism works. When you do not trust the institutions, you want someone who has a chance of defeating Joe Biden. At least fucking lies. You know what I mean? At least lies to you. And let me tell you, a lot of people are going to talk about mass deportations because that was the signature policy for the Trump campaign. They're going to say, how the fuck are undocumented migrants down for the mass deportation stuff? Like, it doesn't make sense. They must be stupid. They must be stupid as fuck. How the fuck is everybody down for undocumented migrants being mass deported? Okay. Adam Kinzinger try to dunk you on this bullshit. How to guarantee a loss in 2028? That's amazing. I just don't understand how. Does he mean the strategy you're talking about is how to lose, or is he a dipshit? I know he's saying he's saying that like we didn't go hard enough on the muscular military shit. For the record, I want you guys to understand something, okay? Number one, plenty of people are going to look to the results and say, we just didn't go far right enough. That is dumb. That is stupid. You are pushing away your base and you are hemorrhaging support from demographics that literally are anti-establishment and loved Bernie Sanders, okay? This is very important. Key constituencies that fucking loved Bernie Sanders are now completely lost. Young Latino men. Young Latino voters in general either don't vote or young Latino men straight up went to the Republican Party. That was the Bernie constituency. Young Arab men and Arab men in general, Arab women in general, okay, either went to the Republican Party due to the fucking Gaza shit or just didn't vote, okay? These are people who were literally the Bernie bros, right? You were so resistant. You kept saying that they were fucking misogynistic, and you pushed them away into either not voting or even going, you know what? I actually wanted healthcare and none of this gay shit. I don't really care about the gay stuff at all, but I just want healthcare, into going, you know what? No one's giving me healthcare, but I still don't want the gay shit. At least this guy is representing the anger that I feel. I cannot comprehend how we have lost so many people. I mean, I can comprehend it. I know exactly how it happened, but I just cannot comprehend how the Democratic Party has not been responsive at all to this fucking depolarization on racial boundaries. And another thing I want to point to, by the way, they chirped so much at black people. So much. What did they do? They were like, oh, there's a big swing for black men towards Donald Trump. What did I fucking tell you? I told you that was going to be marginal in comparison to Latino men and, more importantly, white men without a college degree. White men without a college degree and Latino men without a college degree went by much larger numbers of the Republican Party than black men without a college degree. But that didn't stop the Kamala Harris campaign from activating O'Bungler to fucking go out and be like, oh, well, seems like a lot of you black men are a little misogynistic and pussy too. You think that's a good message? The fuck? Yeah, I'm glad that we spent a whole ordeal centering the narrative around how black people are too misogynistic to fucking vote for a black woman. That was great. That was a great fucking media opportunity. Great stuff. What did I tell you? I told you that shit was bunk. It was nothing. It was ridiculous to hyper-focus on black men, which was going to be a sliver, a fucking sliver, much smaller percentage regardless. Despite all that chatter, Trump didn't really gain with black voters nationwide. 86% Harris, 12% Trump. Unchanged from 2020 when 87% of black voters went for Biden and 12% went for Trump. Black men statistic, 78 to 20 in 2024, 79 to 19 in 2020. 1%. 1%. It drove discourse for a fucking week. 1%. I said it. I told you. I fucking told you this shit was bunk. It was bullshit. It was just a permission structure for white liberals to just shit on black people again. Okay? And that's precisely what the fuck happened. For no reason. It is terrifying to watch the Democratic Party just like hemorrhage its fucking base and refuse. Make no mistake. They are the idealists. Okay? They are the idealists. Okay? The liberals at the tippy top of the Democratic Party are ideologically committed to a dead movement. Neoliberalism has failed. Tacking to the right over and over again has failed. And yet, win or lose, they go, we just got to go to the right. We just got to get more racist. No lessons learned whatsoever. It does not matter to them. That is why they ran a dogshit fucking campaign, in spite all signs pointing to major flaws. How many times did I show you 30 plus polls that were conducted on separating Kamala Harris from Joe Biden on Gaza and how beneficial that would be? The margin of enthusiasm would make up for the percentage point of loss that Kamala Harris had in every single swing state, every single one, just on that issue alone. You lost 0 voters if you changed trajectory on Gaza, and you only stood to gain voters if you changed trajectory, even on the communications front. It would have been a hard thing to explain to people that you were going to be different than your administration that you're a part of. Okay? It's not being a single issue voter. There are plenty of people who are single issue voters, however, on this matter. Dear White staffers is calling for campaign workers to leak the mismanagement. Like, your ground game does not matter if the top line communication is bunk. Okay? You cannot outflank the campaign. You can't lie to people when you're door knocking and be like, no, Kamala Harris is for Medicare for all. When you're door knocking, you can't turn around and just like lie to people about what the campaign actually represents. If the campaign is saying these are our talking points, if the campaign is saying we are going to be the civility party, we're going to be the defenders of the institutions, and that's your like overall communication to voters, that's the thing that you are presenting to voters as the reason for why they must vote for you. Okay? People are not going to touch that. And last but not least, of course, one of the biggest problems was Joseph Robinette Brandon. Prem Tucker is completely right. Why vote for a diet Republican when you can vote for the real thing? Do you think it's just a Palestine situation? From what I heard, is a suburban white man that didn't show up. No, it's not just a Palestine situation. That's just another glaringly obvious flaw from the campaign that shows me and everyone else that's paying close attention that they didn't have the votes to lose, and yet they were acting like it was fine, that they could win without them, that they could win without these votes. Here's the poll on the matter, okay? In Pennsylvania, 34% of respondents said they would be more likely to vote for the Democratic nominee if the nominee vowed to withhold weapons to Israel. compared to 7% who said they would be less likely. The rest said it would make no difference. In Arizona, 35% said they'd be more likely, while 5% said they'd be less likely. And in Georgia, 39% said they'd be more likely, also compared to 5% would be less likely. Now, this doesn't mean that like 34% of people that responded that they would be more likely to vote for the Democratic Party weren't going to vote, and now they are definitely voting. That doesn't mean that at all. But in those massive fucking margins, you have to recognize that there is at least a 5 to 6% swing in your direction because the war is deeply unpopular by Americans. And it's not the only poll. There was like 30 plus issue polls that showed this reality. 30 fucking plus. Emma retweeted this. My takeaway from the results, it looks like America has shifted right a lot. Some of this has to do with the frustrations over inflation, sure, but I think there's more here. Democrats have been running campaigns the old-fashioned way, and I think we acknowledge that it's not cutting it. We raise money like crazy, mop the floor of Republicans and voter contact efforts, get out the vote operations and advertising. We also get way more major endorsements, but at the end of the day, it barely makes a difference. Most voters get their news through social media, and on social platforms, we are getting washed. Since 2015, Republicans have been building up their infrastructure to control the airwaves, and right now they do. Their content gets more impressive. Impressions on nearly every platform. That's true. All of this stuff is true. I've been saying this. I've been ringing the alarm bells about this shit too. But you have to remember, it's not that the country is moving to the right. Please make no mistake. Okay. On every single issue poll, Central Committee, thank you for the raid. Hope you had a good stream, brother. On every single issue poll, every single one, when faced with two options, mass deportation or mass amnesty wins. It's got majority approval. So why is the Democratic Party not showing that? People say trans panic stuff is really, really good. The anti-trans messaging is really successful. It's a massive banger, okay? It's a really good way to campaign. 64% of the population think trans people are being discriminated against unfairly. It is not like it is what you see in the media. What you see in the media and what is represented in the media is not the reality on the ground. That is precisely the reason why a faceless, lifeless ballot measure that, if communicated by Democrats, would be considered a radical one, like increasing the minimum wage to $15, passes in a state like fucking Missouri. That's it. Abortion protections are massively popular in states where Democrats lose by fucking 10 points. How? I thought America wasn't progressive. I thought they hated progress. How is that possible? Perhaps it is because the Democrats are so scared for pushing. If Trump wins, there'll be efforts to blame Russia interference or Harris or Biden, etc. That's all fair, but we need to be clear-eyed that a huge swath of America likes what Trump is selling, transphobia, mass deportation. That's what he ran on, and here we are. No, dude, no. And I'll tell you, I'll give you a reason for this, okay? I'll give you a reason for this. Here's what I mean. There are tens of thousands of people in this community that voted for Kamala Harris. Do you agree with Kamala Harris's policies across the board? Do you? No, of course you don't. No. Of course you fucking don't. And there are plenty of Republicans that either aren't paying attention or don't give a fuck about any of this shit either. And they just think, oh, he's going to fix the economy. And they're dumb enough to think that that is, going to happen with Donald Trump. That's it. That's it. That's it. The idea that like everyone is hyper tuned to every single part of the campaign's messaging, and that's what they're so excited to go out and vote for Donald Trump because they all want concentration camps at the border is fucking stupid. It literally does not track with reality. It does not track with the messaging polls on this. And you'll see it. When he starts the mass deportations, you'll see how angry people get. Because one, what do I always say? Americans don't understand the policies that they're either voting for or just don't think about it at all. They just don't know how bad it's going to be. And that is a flaw on the counter messaging side from the Democratic Party. They never once communicated that all this border shit was bunk, that it was all born out of right-wing panic, hysteria. You think it's an accident that every 2 years, whenever there's a fucking midterm or a general election, there's a caravan that comes out of nowhere? They pulled that ripcord over and over again. You know they're going to do it. Show me the clip, chat. You know the one I'm talking about. 2021, when Biden started going against the anti-immigrant rhetoric. I said this. I said that this was going to be a massively consequential problem for the Democratic Party. You know the one I'm talking about. All the way back in April 2021. One of you's got to have it. What is this? When historians look back at this election, they're going to see this moment as the one that solidified the victory for Trump. Yeah, radical progressive, according to Dems, Tlaib had nearly double what Harris had for voters in Dearborn. In Dearborn, Rashida Tlaib did nearly twice as well as Kamala Harris. Speaking of Rashida Tlaib, I'm going to be having her on the broadcast on Friday, I believe. Yeah, Harris says there's not much she'd have done differently than Biden over the last 4 years. What a fucking baffling concept. Where are my linkers at? Oh, here it is, Jules Verne. Thank you. Jules Verne. Oh, here it is. Here.
Part of one of his early executive orders, Biden established a task force to locate and reunite migrant parents and children who remain separated.
This wasn't the one I was looking for, but
as of early April, the task force.
The refugee cap is still at the same levels of the Trump administration. There's so much bullshit that the Democratic Party engages with when it comes to just like the continuation of white nativist reactionary points of view and reactionary white nativist policies, especially as it pertains to criminal justice and immigration. This border crisis narrative is incredibly annoying from the media, by the way. They are
March 15th, 2021.
absolutely feeding into this. And they're going to cause the Democrats to behave in a totally, even in a more reactionary way than they were already going to behave. It is so incredibly manufactured. There's always been a crisis at the border. When there are humanitarian problems occurring at the border as a consequence of the conditions there, 120 degrees they have to traverse in the desert, all that sort of stuff. And then also the American government adding on to the cruelty with the way that they choose to deal with people that are crossing the border, that are seeking asylum. There is an extra crisis on the border. There's always a crisis on the border. It's never stopped. The problem is the way media covers it. You can either cover it like you do under the Trump administration, which is somewhat honestly, from a moral grandstand point of view, like an actual honest point of view, by saying this is really messed up, this is really horrible, the way that we are treating these people is absolutely ridiculous. Or you can treat it in a way where you look at the border and you say, there's a gigantic crisis happening in the border currently, and it's really bad because so many people are coming in. So many people are coming in. What are we going to do? Depending on who is in charge, we either deal with it from the point of view of reactionary garbage, claiming that this is a huge issue, not taking an actual stance on it, but just simply channeling the right-wing agitations as they have done. Just covering it as, many Americans are concerned that the border is turning into a pylon with hundreds of thousands of migrants coming in through the floodgates. Like, that's no different than what Fox News says. No different than what Fox News says. When MSNBC is saying it, or whenever, the Associated Press is covering it in that way, they're doing a disservice. If they truly have a left-wing point of view in the way that, so many imply, then they have to recognize that simply offering contentious coverage on a particular matter does not mean that you're doing honest coverage on the issue. So, all you fucking want, you can go, la, 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 I don't care, they are all illegal.
This was what happened in No Kids in Cages from February 24th, 2021. The Biden administration seems to be going back to some of their promises regarding immigration reform. Anyway, the point is, a lot of people will turn around. A lot of people will turn around and say, Hasan, hindsight is 2020. This is not hindsight. This is foresight. This is just sight. It's not hindsight. That's copium. If you say it's hindsight, you're wrong. There are plenty of people who saw this ahead of time, myself included. Okay? And the only reason why I was there correctly pointing to this, despite the fact that I'm not fucking Alan Lichtman, nor do I have goddamn keys, is because I understand how this shit works. I've been following politics for years and years and years and years. I look at messaging polls. I look at issue polls on the matter. They are conducted on a regular fucking basis. Okay? It's not about some bunk methodology. Just understand that Americans are of two different minds on the same issue always. American voters, the median voter, believes in a sea of contradictory opinions, okay, that are sometimes directly at odds with one another. That's why when you poll people on the issue of immigration, right, 60% will say, I want mass deportation, and then 60% will say, I actually want mass amnesty. I want conditional amnesty. It's your fault for listening to a dude with a Justin Bieber haircut who's like 70 fucking years old if you thought that he had some brilliant insight into how this stuff works. I don't discount it. I mean, everyone was desperately looking for hopium. That's why a lot of like more liberal commentators, more centrist commentators were popping off in the lead up, in the build up to this fucking election cycle. But I hope that people will understand that looking for copium and looking for hope is not going to lead you down the correct path. You are going to be you are going to be deluded. Too soon to shit on the keys now. Real key heads are mourning right now, brother. I apologize. Yeah, 4 years ago, Biden got 81 million votes. Kamala Harris has 67 million votes so far. Let's just say it will even go up to 70 million. That means more than 10 million Dems voted to stay home. Stop blaming third-party voters. Yeah, Trump lost 3 million votes. Kamala Harris lost around 10 to 15 million. So do with that information what you will. Of course, the base fell out. Okay? The base fell out.
I think there was this very powerful ad, the Republican Jewish Coalition, that was all over the airwaves. Yeah. A bunch of women sitting around, Jewish women, just saying, I can't stand him, but I felt like we were supporting Israel and we were stronger and we were tougher. And I think that resonates with people.
Nah, exile these people. Exile them. Ridicule them. I'm sorry. You should not be this comfortable. You cannot be this wrong and this comfortable at the same time. I don't care if you have a prominent position in mainstream media. No, that's fucking bullshit, man. That's bullshit. She didn't go hard enough on Israel? What the fuck? These people have allowed twice for a fucking fascist takeover of the country that has set in motion events that are creeping America towards full tilt Hitlerian politics. Okay? Twice now, they have enabled this. I'm done with this shit, dude. I'm fucking done with this shit. Holy fuck. Not a shred of evidence cited. These pundits probably aren't even aware that 61% of Americans across the board support an arms embargo on Israel, and that undecided voters in key swing states were 34 to 39% more likely to vote for Harris if she supported an embargo. But we shouldn't care. We shouldn't expect these pundits to care about actual facts. They are determined to ignore the reasons for their failures and just blame everyone else in perpetuity.
Fear about Israel not being protected. There was never a response from the campaign on that, which I thought was a big mistake. Amanda Berman from Zioness had to raise money, run her own ads trying to fight back alone. That didn't work. So, but listen, you tied her to the economy, you tied her to Biden, you tied her to weird, and it was not a good enough
I
response.
agree with everything you're saying. I just didn't want to engage in the autopsy before she has even before we've called the race and before she dropped out. But one thing on that, the answer on I can't think of anything offhand about where she would differ with Biden was disastrous, and there's no doubt about it. The question is what motivated it, and whether she just felt she did not want to.
Loyalty.
I'm seeing a lot of blame for the far left. Oh, I really hope. I mean, look, the Democratic Party is never going to learn this lesson. I don't think that the media is going to present this as a viable alternative because they obviously still want to get fucking ad contracts to the tune of millions of dollars from these big businesses.
Yes,
but I really hope that there are normal human beings out there who recognize what is going on to simply say that this country has shifted to the right without making an accurate assessment, without looking at actual issue polls, okay? Without accurately analyzing what the campaign's failures were, and then claiming that the Democrats' fault is that they didn't go hard right enough is insane. That is so insane. If you go right, the Republicans will go even further right. They always have been able to outflank the Democratic Party on this stuff. And the question still remains, even if that was a successful message that won the election for you, do you really think that this is a good idea? Now, obviously, it wasn't successful regardless, so we don't even have to entertain that hypothetical. But if you were to entertain that hypothetical, even for a brief moment, if Kamala Harris was able to say, I'm the real border person, I'm going to fucking kill all the migrants myself. Don't trust Donald Trump. He's not serious enough about killing migrants and deporting them. I'm the real migrant killer. Do you actually want the Democratic Party to be the migrant mutilator party? Is that the smart thing to do? Even if that was a successful message, is that the future that we want to build for the United States of America? This is shocking. Whether the country went right or whether the Dems just ignored the population and wasn't focused on the issues, the solution is the same message better and offer voters something. Yes. What do you think of Brace Belden's theory that a lot of people lost their minds completely sometime around 2020? I agree. I really do. The idea that like Kamala Harris wasn't pro-Israel enough and the notion that like Jewish American voters only care about Israel is so fucking idiotic. 79% of Jews voted for Kamala Harris. 79%. And Kamala Harris was incredibly committed to Israel. It was the 9th priority for American Jews out of the top 10 priorities. 9th. Israel was the 9th priority. Why the fuck would it be number 1? They're literally American, okay? This argument is unironically the woke version of dual loyalty. Like liberals, because they get away with this when they're pro-Israel, say the most unhinged anti-Semitic shit. They're like, yeah, you know these Jews, they have dual loyalty to Israel. That's the one thing that they care about. It's like, no, that's not true. That's not fucking true. What the fuck? And yeah, speaking of this, Jonathan Greenblatt, we congratulate President Donald J. Trump, Vice President-elect J.D. Vance, and all the candidates who won last night. We look forward to working with the incoming administration, Congress, and all elected officials in pursuit of our 111-year-old mission to stop the defamation of the Jewish people and secure justice and fair treatment for all. We remain steadfastly committed to the timeless mission as we fight the torrent of anti-Semitism sweeping our society. Ben Lorber says, utter depravity. According to exit polls, 80% of American Jews voted for Harris. We are waking up horrified for our country and our communities. Did misogyny and racism have a factor in this? Is a question that a lot of people are going to be asking. Okay? The reality of the matter is, of course, it plays a role. But how significant of a role it plays is up to the campaign. Kamala Harris did a pretty good job of not doing the I'm with her nonsense, something that I also said was fantastic. It was smart, right? But beyond that, you have to overcome that hurdle, right? You can't just go, up, people are too racist and too misogynistic. I guess we can't ever elect a black woman is insane. That's an insane proposition. Do you understand? That's an insane proposition. That's an incredibly racist proposition to be like, sorry, we just simply cannot have a black woman run in this country. When you got, I mean, you look at Mexico. Mexico is 98% Catholic. They elected a Jewish woman. They're more woke than we are. I wonder why that happened. Perhaps it was because people thought AMLO was very popular. And Claudia was AMLO's successor. How did that happen? Mexico elected Claudia Sheinbaum, a socialist Jewish woman. People don't give a fuck. If they believe you, if they believe that you are going to fight for them, they will vote for you. And they will reward you with votes. Okay? Over and over again. Elizabeth Slotkin defeated Mike Rogers to keep the Democratic control of a critical Michigan Senate seat. At least there's that. All the takes are correct, and yet they also missed the point, says Jason Hickel. Yes, it was insane for the Democrats to think they could win by running a soulless candidate without a shred of progressive policy vision, pursuing endorsements from neocon war hawks everybody hates, while arming and funding a genocide and belittling crushing those who have enough morality to protest it. It is enraging that Democrats are so smug and blind to this. But these are just all symptoms. The deeper reality is that liberalism has failed. Liberalism is dead, and people urgently need to wake up to this fact and respond accordingly. It is a defunct ideology that cannot offer any meaningful solutions to our social and ecological crises, and it must be abandoned. I 100% agree with this. Liberalism has been an overt failure, and we are watching the failures of liberalism unfold in Europe as well. Our European allies are also going through that exact same problem right now. You have the rise of the fascist right in Germany with AfD. You have the rise of the fascist right in France. You have the rise of the fascist right everywhere in Europe. Liberalism is bringing about a damning wave of fascism. We have to wake the fuck up. If you do not provide adequate solutions and make a compelling case as to how you are going to earnestly fight to get those solutions passed to the material harm that everyone in the Western world in the working class is experiencing, you are going to let fascism win. And that is precisely what the Democrats are doing. Democrats have proven over and over again that they cannot accept even basic steps like public health care, affordable housing, and a public job guarantee, things that would dramatically improve the material, social, and political conditions of the working classes. And they cannot accept a public finance strategy that would steer production away from fossil fuels and towards green transition to give us a shot at a livable future. Why? Because these things run against the objectives of capital accumulation. And for liberals, capital is sacrosanct. They will do whatever it takes to ensure elite accumulation. It is their only consistent commitment. At home, they suppress and demonize progressive and socialist tendencies. Abroad, they engage in endless wars and violence to suppress input prices in the global south and prevent any possibility of sovereign economic development. The Democrats have done all of this purposely and knowingly for my whole life, not as some kind of mistake, but in full consciousness that it is in the interests of capital. This is why we say it is two sides of the same fucking coin. Okay? This does not mean that there are severe differences. One side is bouldering towards fascism, but the other side is absolutely allowing said fascism to win. Here is David Sirota's assessment from 1938. FDR's warning. The year before a fulminating Nazi rally in a packed Madison Square Garden in New York, FDR warned that the global rise of fascism was the result of democratic governments doing the opposite of the New Deal and protecting an economic status quo, enriching a tiny handful at the expense of everyone else. Democracy has disappeared in several other great nations, not because the people of those nations dislike democracy, but because they had grown tired of unemployment. They'd grown tired of insecurity, of seeing their children hungry, while they sat helpless in the face of government confusion and government weakness through lack of leadership. He said in a 1938 radio address, finally, in desperation, they chose to sacrifice liberty in the hope of getting something to eat. That is what is going on in the United States of America right now. That is what is going on in every Western nation that has seen a major, major growth in fascist movements, a rise of the fascist right, people who are overtly, openly white nationalist. In times of economic turmoil, when people are suffering, when wage growth is not outpacing inflation, when your dollar, when your take-home pay does not go the same distance as it once did, you are infinitely more susceptible, infinitely more vulnerable to right-wing propaganda. When you're angry and one side says, oh, don't be angry, the economy is rebounding, stupid, what the fuck? And the other side says, you're right to be angry. And who should you be angry at? Not the rich. Not Elon Musk, not the elites, not the billionaires. There are some good billionaires like Elon Musk. You should be angry at the fucking Mexicans. You should be angry at the undocumented migrants. You should be angry at the liberals who are putting trans people at the forefront of the campaign or whatever the fuck they're saying when they haven't done that. You should be angry at those who are weaker than you, and you should punish them. You should dominate them. And if we dominate them, then your life will get better. But their lives won't get better. Their lives will get worse. That's precisely what happened in the 4 years of the Trump administration, which, you know, due to a bunch of different circumstances, led to a literal carcass winning over Donald Trump by 42,000 votes in a couple states, but a win nonetheless. I think the other piece that liberals are not just dying, they're attacking the left on the way down. They realize right-wing movements are dominating everywhere because liberals have spent decades shitting on the left. Host of NBC's Morning Joe with Mika Brzezinski, dressed in black for the occasion, engaged in a real honest conversation about why Kamala Harris lost. A lot of Hispanic voters have problems with black candidates. They don't like each other.
Really quickly, too.
Yeah, let's do further race wars without accurately analyzing what the fuck is going on. This seems good.
Democrats need to be mature, and they need to be honest. And they need to say, yes, there's misogyny. But it's not just misogyny from white men. Mm-hmm. It's misogyny from Hispanic men.
Right.
It's misogyny from black men, things we've all been talking about, who do not want a woman leading them. Might be race issues with Hispanics. They don't want a black woman as president of the United States. You know, the Democratic Party, I've always found when you're sitting around talking, they love to just sort of balkanize everybody into these separate groups and say, oh, white people don't like women and black people. No, it is time for the Democrats to say, okay, and you and I have talked about this before, a lot of Hispanic voters have problems with black candidates.
Right.
A lot
and
of,
with other Hispanics. You've got some that don't like each other. And some of the most misogynist things I've heard.
Nah, I'm done, dude. Nah, these guys are so, they're so fucking annoying. They're looking for a comfortable narrative. And of course, the most comfortable narrative in a country like the United States of America is still going to be instilling racial animus and racial division. Okay? It's so fucking annoying. It's so goddamn annoying. How is it any different than like Fox News at this point? Notice how they never have the same fucking smoke for white men, which overwhelmingly vote for Republicans. Instead, they yell at black men, Hispanic men, Arabs on the left. Yeah, it's just disgusting. It is disgusting, and it is a dying fucking ideological movement. I cannot. I mean, I said this last night. I told you, liberals are going to get real fucking racist with it. They're so one note. They're so goddamn one note. White men, 74%. 74% of white men. White women, 69%. AOC said this in 2020 and also seems very prescient looking at the results. But the ending of the story is the same no matter which man wins. America is still in a lot of trouble, warns AOC. There's a temptation to view Trump as an aberration, she says, rather than a wake-up call to the failures of the American government at large. Under a President Biden, if his life doesn't feel different, she points to a cab driver whizzing by our table. If their life doesn't feel different, she gestures at people walking by the beauty shop and Bengali halal grocery. If these people's lives don't actually feel different, now she's giving a stump speech over her omelet. We're done. You know how many Trumps there are in waiting? She's tired of incremental change. Bullshit little 10% tax cut, she says. I think honestly, a lot of my dissent within the Democratic Party comes from my lived experience. It's not just that we can do better. It's that we have to be better. We're not good enough right now. It's okay to hate women as long as you put white in front of it. Yawn. I don't know which race this is from. I don't think this is the overall national race though. The numbers that you guys presented me, especially because I just saw fucking 69% of white women. I don't think 69% of white women by national percentages went to Donald Trump over Kamala Harris. That's got to be Georgia, right? Yeah. Well, Georgia is important though because that is where she was supposed to have that impact. That is where she was supposed to have that impact. She went into the suburbs, right? She was supposed to win over the fucking suburbs. What happened? That was what that method was for. And look at that. And I told you this as well. If white women don't break for Kamala Harris, she loses. And they didn't. Look at this for sure. Current Senate Dem overperformance compared to Harris by margins. Tester plus 13, Osborne plus 13, Klobuchar plus 11. I need you to understand something. Gallego plus 7, Brown plus 7, Allred plus 5, Rosen plus 4, Heinrich plus 4, Kim plus 4, Tim Kaine plus 3, Slotkin plus 2, Baldwin plus 2. I need you to understand something here. Kamala Harris had down ballot consequences pulling these results down. Okay? That's the other part of this. Some of these guys were very right-wing, like Tester in fucking Montana. But ultimately, unlike the top of the ticket, senators have to run issue-based campaigns. And when you are forced to run an issue-based campaign, okay, you are going to have better results. Oh. It was a Biden problem. The good news is there isn't really a Dem problem. There was a Biden problem. Biden was hugely unpopular and Harris didn't break with him problem. Yeah. Sure, they were running in very red states and not nationally. Tester, Osborne, and Gallego all dive right on stuff that would have made lots of Democrats mad if Harris had done it. Sure, they were running in very red states and not nationally. Conversely, Osborne dived left on economics, which Harris could have done. You cannot outrun the campaign. You cannot outrun the fucking campaign. Do you understand? You cannot outflank the campaign. If the top of the ticket is saying, these are our messages, this is what we're going out with, it doesn't matter how many millions you spend in ad spend. It doesn't matter how good your ground game is, because when you're door knocking, you have to still defend the policies of the campaign. And if those policies do not address the material harm that people are experiencing, they're going to go, you didn't convince me. Okay? Coping and seething and coping. Okay, dude. Yeah, I'm coping and seething for routinely fucking screaming bloody murder about how absolutely stupid the messaging was from the top of the ticket.
And I like that he didn't actually plan to ban abortion. He just brought it back to the States.
ASU tells MSNBC she voted for Trump because she likes that he doesn't plan to ban abortion. Anyway. Good news is that Biden seems to have some really great lame duck priorities. The Biden administration is planning to rush the last of over $6 billion remaining in Ukraine security assistance out the door by Inauguration Day. And I'm going to tell you something right now. That's a must-pass bill, okay? And it will most likely pass. That is going to potentially have, according to Chuck Schumer, if Chuck Schumer is actually going to follow through on this, a bill that slaps on anti-Semitism as a hate crime for criticisms of Israel. A conflation of the criticisms of Israel as anti-Semitism into that bill. Chuck Schumer said that. He was going to do that in the lame duck and slap it onto a must-pass bill. Prison arc for Hasanabi, baby. Let's go. Thank fuck. We really needed that. Netanyahu and Trump talked about the Iranian threat breaking Israeli Prime Minister office. Netanyahu spoke to President-elect Donald Trump and was among the first to call to congratulate him for his victory. The conversation was warm and cordial, and the two agreed to work together for Israel's security and discuss the Iranian threat. We should also be mad at what you have said, the DC Beltway analyst focus group hacks that do shit like muzzle wallets and tell Harris not to say we're not going back because it didn't test amazing. These people are the ones that made her sound like a robot, and why there's no passion in Democrats. People hate it. Yeah, but Kamala Harris was a blank slate. Okay? What you write on that blank slate matters. She was given a wipeout. Okay? It's so stupid. A lot of people will point to, 44% of the American voters thought that Kamala Harris was too liberal. Yes, dude. They do. It doesn't fucking matter. You want to know why it doesn't matter? Because she's a black woman from California. Of course they're saying that, despite the fact that she kept reiterating her commitment to being as right-wing as physically possible. So at a certain point, you have to understand, like, they're going to call you a socialist or too liberal anyway. Her most successful policy was combating prices at the grocery store by effectively communicating that she was going after price gougers. That was literally her most successful policy. That is radical socialism. And the Republicans kept saying, that's radical socialism. That's Venezuela. That's Venezuela. That's Venezuela. That shit was polling after all the fucking combating, after all the fucking attacks launched against it at a higher percentage. It was polling at 83%. 83%. Americans hate Obamacare, but love the Affordable Care Act. They hate Obamacare, but love the fact that 26-year-olds can stay under their parents' health care. Love the fact that insurance companies cannot deny you coverage for pre-existing conditions. Stop focusing on top-line idiotic nonsense. Dive beyond the polls or the messaging data that the media is trying to represent to you to make it seem like America is far more reactionary than it actually is. I cannot comprehend how we look at this massive fucking failure. And by the way, update. Biden has now spoken to Trump and invited him to meet at the White House in the near future. Yeah, he's going to hug and kiss him. And also, Kamala Harris's speech is going to be live in 15 minutes, her concession speech. Overall, exit poll show, by the way, Kamala Harris literally lost white women again. Or wait. Yeah, across the board, 54% of women voted for Kamala Harris. Where are the white women? Let's see. 55% went to Trump again. FDR made a settlement for the working class as he was an elite that drew his power from outside the market. Those elites don't exist anymore, and the logic of the market is always to capitulate to capitalism. I don't think social democratic settlement will occur considering there is no communist counter-hegemon. Chinese are neolibs now. I agree. That I think is a dire ideological prospect. Nationally, just over half of men supported Trump and just over half of women supported Harris. That pattern was visible. Race and ethnicity, 41% of white voters went for Kamala, 57% went for Trump. Nationally, roughly 1 in 10 voters were Hispanic, a similar share as in 2020, according to early network exit polling. Harris won slight majority Hispanic voters nationally, significantly underperforming Joe Biden's 33-point margin in 2020. 33. Stop listening to these fucking idiots, okay? At a certain point, you will realize that these guys are just running on a reactionary slant. They're simple contrarians that have been far too invested in the fuck Hasanabi train for some weird reason I don't really understand. Oh. The fuck Hasanabi people are going to be more annoying now that now after Trump is in office? No. The most insufferable streamers cough. Mike from PA cough will be forced to acknowledge that Kamala will smart to pivot the center and aggressively target moderate Republicans. Guys, please. Yeah. He also owes our boy money, for the record. How much is it? Is Michael in here? Mike, are you in here? How much does he owe you? $1,500 now? What is it? How many times have you fucking owned this delusional guy? What's the total? In this thread, he shows all my correct analysis. Kamala winning means the worst people you know of will feel like complete shit. MAGA will be caught way off guard because they all think it'll be a Trump landslide. Elon will be forced to confront the fact that he simply can't buy his preferred outcome. Anti-electoral Twitter lefties will feel utterly irrelevant and powerless. People, please, you have no idea how much I need this. The most insufferable streamers, cough, Mike from PA cough, will be forced to acknowledge that Kamala was smart to pivot to the center and aggressively target moderate Republicans. Please. It turns out that Kamala Harris was lying when she said that Biden and Harris were working 24/7 for a ceasefire and hostage deal. Being a leftist is about being right, but too early for people to admit. October's surprise of a war with Iran could lose their election. Harris has completely fumbled by turning to the right and totally cratered her support among young people and black people. Pathetic and deserved. It's really amazing just how siloed pro-Kamala commentators are from the actual empirical data on polling error. The overwhelming evidence is that the downside risk in this election is in underestimating Trump in the actual vote. That fact is basically ignored. Here's my map as today. I could be convinced that she holds Wisconsin, but it's irrelevant. Harris loses even with Wisconsin flipping blue. He was right. Okay? He was right. And I find it really weird that these guys are so wrong and they're not even embarrassed to be wrong. Will we have a fair assessment? To be fair to him, today admitted that you were right. The top level data shows us something that seemed inevitable in hindsight. The country, like many others, blamed the incumbent party for inflation, and Kamala inherited that blame. I find myself disagreeing with Hasan a lot these days, but he's absolutely right that if the Democratic Party is going to chart a path in the 21st century, we need to figure out a way to compete in that space. Conservatives are dominating alternative media right now and have been for years. That is an issue that's not going away. It's beyond that. Okay? That is one aspect of this conversation. But if liberals only hyper-focus on like dominating fucking media and the podcast space, they will lose again because this problem is larger than that. Okay? Please. I have been ringing the fucking alarm bells on not only right-wing radicalization, especially amongst young men, especially on social media, but beyond that, I have consistently maintained the same position over and over again, and I hope people hear me when I say this. It is not just about having a bunch of people like me or Harry Sassans going out there and doing podcasts, okay? It's not just that. There is a major problem with the way that the Democratic Party is seen by the broader population for good reason. The Democratic Party are seen as the elite institutionalists at a time when people do not believe these institutions any longer. There is no more trust in media. There is no more trust. And by the way, that's the fault of mainstream outlets for the most part. Just remember that. Although I have a lot of trust and respect for many journalists that work in these institutions, they're fucking dropping the ball spectacularly. Okay? This decentralized space has created this massive fucking rift where people just look for their hug boxes. Okay? They look for their own hug boxes. They do not see anything outside of that at all. But there is one way to break through. And it's not just like making the best fucking possible podcast to appeal to these people. Okay? That's one part of it. But what you also have to do, what you also have to fucking do is change the attitude of the Democratic Party. Okay? You have to focus on the material harms that people are experiencing, and you have to actually put up a fucking fight. Drop this bullshit with like corporate donors and corporate benefactors. If you don't do that, fascism is going to thrive, and you are slowly but surely going to lean to the right over and over again, year over year, and always refuse to comprehend like why this is happening. You're like, oh, people are too stupid to vote for us. Why don't they vote for us? Why don't they vote for us? It's because you're just simply normalizing right-wing sentiment to your base when you do that, instead of launching a fight. People are not separating your quote-unquote socialist identity and your analysis of how the DNC has been fucking up since 2016. It's one of the biggest uphill battles I've noticed when engaging with naysayers. I know. If I had never been revealed as a socialist and I simply said I'm a diehard, die-in-the-wool, vote blue no matter who type fucking Democrat, and I'm simply looking at the polls and saying like, well, it seems like people really want Medicare for all, then maybe there would be less animosity towards the things that I'm talking about. People, when I kept repeating all of the failures of the Kamala Harris campaign, everybody simply said, nah, dog, the only reason why you're saying this is because you care about Gaza. Nobody else cares about Gaza. Shut the fuck up. That's why you're just cynically talking about all these other aspects of the campaign in an effort to make Kamala Harris look bad. No, it is because I did not want Donald Trump to win. And I'm sick and tired of the Democratic Party constantly fucking losing to psychopathic and genuinely unlikable fascists. It's fucking ridiculous.